We live in a culture that often mistakes emotional reactivity for strength and silence for weakness. But if you examine our evolutionary and psychological roots, you begin to see that the reverse is more often true. The title of today's discussion, Step Back, Stay Silent, She Will Beg You, may sound inflammatory, even cruel at first glance, but I challenge you to look deeper. There's a psychological truth here if you're willing to confront it. Let's begin with the idea of stepping back. What does it mean psychologically to step back from conflict, from emotional provocation? It's not cowardice. It's not apathy. It's discipline. It's what Carl Jung would have called the integration of the shadow, the conscious choice to withhold the tyrant within. When a man steps back, when he chooses silence over shouting, he is not retreating. He is asserting control over his own psyche. He's refusing to be manipulated by chaos. Every day, men are told to express, react, emote on command, as though discharging energy is equivalent to strength. But letting emotion rule your actions is not strength, it's surrender. The modern world confuses visibility with virtue. But character is not built in exposure. It is carved in solitude. Silence is not the absence of words. It is the presence of inner structure. When you refuse to speak in the face of provocation, you are not giving up. You are taking command. The ability to walk away from a situation instead of exploding within it is the hallmark of a man who knows himself. He doesn't just react. He weighs, he thinks, he decides. And when he steps back, it isn't a retreat. It's a calculated movement of discipline. Most people act because they can't handle the discomfort of inaction. But the man who can sit in silence while being tested, that man is not a pawn. He is a king, refusing to play someone else's game. When a man restrains himself, he builds an invisible architecture of strength inside his psyche. He learns to endure pressure without leaking integrity. In a world obsessed with gratification, that's rare, that's noble, that's masculine. The man who cannot walk away is already enslaved. The man who always has to speak, always has to fight, always has to be heard is not strong. He is addicted to validation. Restraint is spiritual warfare. You are not just holding back action, you are declaring to yourself and the world that your value does not need confirmation through chaos. When you choose to step back, you are not saying, I don't care. You are saying, I care too much about my peace to waste it. There is a storm inside every man, but when that storm is mastered, it becomes direction, not destruction. Restraint forces the world to adjust to your stillness. It's a form of psychological gravity. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't bend. You wait, you watch. You act when necessary, but never when baited. That's the energy that makes others reflect. That's the posture that demands respect. In silence, the truth of a man's spirit is revealed. To step back when provoked is not to concede, it's to dominate the battlefield that matters most, the one within. You are not suppressing your voice. You are prioritizing your values. Restraint says, I know who I am. I know what I'm capable of, and I don't need to prove it every time I'm challenged. That's not weakness. That's the apex of maturity. There is something profoundly magnetic about a man who chooses not to engage in drama. He refuses to be pulled into emotional storms because he is building something more sacred than an argument. He is building a foundation. He understands that the greatest battles are not won through reaction, but through endurance. And endurance is birthed in restraint. To stay silent while being misunderstood requires more strength than to shout until you're heard. Because in that silence, you place your ego on the altar. You sacrifice the need to be right for the greater need to remain aligned with your principles. That is not submission, that is transcendence. The man who can control his reactions is the man who controls his future. Emotional outbursts are easy. Emotional discipline is earned. And when a man earns that control, he becomes dangerous in the best sense of the word, not to others, but to everything that would try to enslave him. A restrained man is a man with options. He isn't locked into the game of cause and effect. He can choose his path, not just respond to others. That's where freedom begins. Not in doing whatever you want, but in not being enslaved by what you feel. Emotional sovereignty is the highest form of self-respect. You don't need to respond to every accusation. You don't need to fight every battle. You don't need to explain yourself to those committed to misunderstanding you. The man who steps back is not avoiding the fire. He's letting it burn out before he speaks, because only a fool builds words in flames. Wisdom waits for the embers. Every time you hold your tongue when your pride screams, you are hammering a nail into the foundation of your strength. Every time you walk away from unnecessary war, you are becoming harder to shake. Every time you allow silence to speak for you, your presence grows. There is no dignity in being controlled by your emotions, but there is infinite dignity in owning them without unleashing them. The man who chooses restraint is not suppressing his masculinity, he is refining it. That refinement is not softness, it is precision. If your strength depends on others seeing it, you don't have strength, you have performance. Real power doesn't parade, it doesn't plead, it doesn't push, it stands, quiet, tall, rooted. And if it must move, it moves with clarity, not chaos. Stepping back does not mean backing down, it means stepping into a higher vantage point. It means rising above the noise to see what others can't. From that place, you don't just react, you orchestrate. You don't beg for peace, you embody it. Restraint is not the denial of power, it is its concentration. It is strength in waiting. It is the choice to be intentional instead of impulsive. And in that choice, you do not shrink, you solidify. There is a storm between men and women, ancient and unspoken, written in biology and myth, not social media posts. The regime of masculinity is not about dominance, it is about containment of self, of emotion, of chaos. It is the art of becoming an unmoved mover, the kind of man whose stillness causes everything around him to reorient. Women test not to destroy you, but to see if you can survive the impact, not because they are cruel, but because they need to know if you're real. You cannot fake centeredness. It is exposed under pressure. She doesn't want your control. She wants your composure. And the moment you lose it, she sees something primal. You are not the rock you pretended to be. Masculinity is not about overpowering her emotions. It is about holding your own without drowning in hers. When she throws chaos your way, it's not because she hates you. It's because she needs to feel your stability. Her instinct is wired to test the foundation. If it crumbles, her respect dies before her love does. A woman does not beg a man who chases. She runs from the man who pleads. She is drawn to the one who doesn't flinch when she roars. You think love is in your words, but to her, love is in your weight. Not physical weight, psychological mass. The gravity of a man who doesn't need. Worthy to explain himself, to feel understood. The one who can stand in silence and still be louder than the noise in her head. Masculine discipline is not about suppressing desire, it's about channeling it. Not reacting to every provocation is not apathy. It is awareness sharpened into strategy. The man who bites every bait is not strong, he is predictable. And nothing repels feminine energy faster than a man she can steer with emotion. When she escalates, she is watching, not your face, not your words, your core. She is reading whether your soul shakes when hers does. When you don't flinch, you're not ignoring her, you are embodying something she forgot existed, the quiet power of presence. A man's discipline teaches her that fire doesn't always need to be put out. Sometimes it burns itself clean. But that lesson only lands when you don't panic, when you don't try to fix her feelings like they're problems on your desk. She isn't asking for a solution, she's looking for a mountain. She's looking for the thing in you that doesn't move when the ground does. Her emotions are waves. You are not the surfboard. You are the ocean floor. And if you can't anchor her storm, she has no reason to surrender. She won't say it, but she's craving something sacred. The kind of man who can stay grounded when she can't. Not the man who matches her chaos, but the man who absorbs it and gives it back in order. Masculine discipline tells her, I see your fire, but I am not consumed. You don't need to convince her of your worth. You need to become the kind of man who doesn't need to prove it. When she pushes, don't push back, stand. When she pulls, don't chase, center yours. LF, if she screams, don't shout, listen with stillness. She is not attacking you, she is probing your depth. Women don't consciously understand this half the time, but biology does, and biology is louder than belief. You think love is peace, but real love involves friction. She wants to know you can hold tension without collapsing, that when she doubts herself, you don't fall with her, that your decisions aren't shaped by moods. The masculine tests are never about logic, they are about energetic integrity. The man who can remain calm while everything burns is the one she will come back to, not because he demands her, but because he doesn't require her approval to be whole. Discipline in the masculine is terrifying to the insecure, magnetic to the feminine, because discipline signals self-possession, and self-possession is rare. The man who isn't swayed by affection or rejection is the man who owns his identity, and that ownership rewrites the energy of the room. She will mirror what you project. If you chase, she runs. If you collapse, she takes the lead. But if you hold frame, not forcefully but silently, she softens, not because you made her, but because she felt safe to. You were taught to open up, to emote endlessly, to express all your vulnerability instantly. But exposure without boundaries is not intimacy. It's chaos without purpose. Masculine discipline means you choose when to open and how. Not out of fear, but because you are a vessel, not a puddle. And she cannot respect a man who drowns in his own openness. To lead, you must contain. To contain, you must master yourself. Discipline shows her you don't worship her emotions, you honor them. There's a difference. Worship is submission. Honor is awareness wrapped in strength. When you're disciplined, you're not reacting, you're reading. You're interpreting without panic. And from that calm interpretation, you act with precision. That's the kind of man whose presence rearranges the feminine energy in the room without a word spoken. If you chase her when she's testing you, you abandon your post. If you break your frame just to soothe her, you destroy the polarity that attracted her to you. Love does not mean softness at every turn. It means holding the line so both of you don't fall. Masculine energy is not rude, not cold, not indifferent. It is rooted. And roots don't shake because a breeze demands they do. You do not discipline her, you discipline yourself. You are not the one to manage her feelings.